Some time ago, I was co-leading a week-long workshop in global stewardship. There were 12 people. They were all executives with global responsibilities. And my part, teaching them to tell stories and to coach each other on their storytelling, was woven into every day. In fact, the final event of the week was to be a banquet at a medieval castle in Switzerland. And after dinner, each of the 12 of them would tell a story that they'd been working on all week. And the story had to communicate something that was essential to their global leadership. Well, about halfway through the week, I went around one by one and asked them what stories they were going to tell. Now, I came to this one man. He was an executive with a multinational manufacturing company. He had responsibility for all their operations in all of Asia and all of Africa. And I said, so have you thought about what story you might want to work on to tell on Friday night? He said, I'm not going to tell a story. Oh, why not? Well, I don't have time for storytelling. Oh, well, why is that? Well, I have all these leaders I have to train, and there's many important things to train them in, and I don't have time for this. I said, is there something that you find yourself explaining to them over and over? He said, yes. Don't make assumptions. Huh? Well, these people, many of them travel from country to country, and they tend to assume that the local conditions and expectations are the same as theirs, and that's a big mistake. I said, so how did you learn how important it was not to make that kind of assumption? Well, I'll tell you. I was going to supervise one of our manufacturing plants in equatorial Africa. It was really remote. I had to fly into a sweltering city. And then I took a helicopter to a place that was even hotter. And then I had to be driven 3 hours across the desert in a Land Rover. And I arrived at the facility after dark, but it was still too hot. I was greeted by the local director. He said, well, there's nothing we have time to do tonight, except I'll show you where your choices are of where to stay. And he showed me there were 2 houses. One was a little larger, it was airy. The other one was smaller, didn't have natural ventilation, but he said it had air conditioning. That's the one I want. I want air conditioning. Maybe I should tell you, no, I need air conditioning. Sometime later, I was lying on the bed, reading a book, and the cool air of the air conditioner was just wafting over me. I was comfortable for the first time all day. An hour later, there was kind of a clanking sound, and the light went out, and the air conditioner went out. There was a flashlight. I went around looking outside. I couldn't find anybody. I couldn't do anything. I didn't even know how to reach anybody. In the morning, that local director came to get me, and I gave him an earful. You had a big problem with your facilities here, and nobody fixed it. What's the matter with you? He said, you lost electricity. I certainly did. In this whole compound, we only get electricity an hour or 2 a day. Oh. And that's how I learned not to make assumptions. I said to him, that's a great story. Would you consider telling that story? Huh. Well, Friday night came. One of the participants had been chosen to be the MC of the little storytelling festival, where each of the participants would tell the story they'd worked on that week. And everyone knew that this one man had not bought into storytelling. So when the MC called his name, no one knew if he was going to tell a story or not. Okay, will you grace us with a story? And the man said, I think I will. And he told us the story about Africa and air conditioning. And when he was done, the other participants gave him a standing ovation. So we all learned that night about not making assumptions. And even, I think, about not making assumptions about storytelling.